We've survived 3 full days of the WPT World Championship to keep our dream alive of winning the World Poker Tour's biggest tournament of the year. Our path to get here wasn't easy. Every day we've been pitted against the absolute best players in the world, including bracelet winners and WPT champions with tens of millions of dollars in career tournament earnings. The sharpest minds in poker all showed up for the event, and even though we had to face them on the big stage with huge amounts of money on the line and thousands watching, we managed to hang in there and outlast 96% of the field. Only 132 players are left. Our toughest task lies ahead though. We've got a short stack with another formidable table draw. When I look at the lineup, I can't help but think about the 2009 WSOP main event because that was perhaps the most influential tournament on my poker career. Two of our opponents today, Joe Catta and Andrew, aka Lucky Chewy, were the young guns back in 2009. All three of us were 21 at the time. Chewy got 18th for $500,000, and obviously Joe Catta won it for $8.5 million. But there was another story that was more impactful for me personally. A player named Ian Tavelli, who I grew up playing soccer with, made a name for himself in his first ever main event. We hadn't spoken in years, but he ran deep in the tournament as well. Very deep. With only 2 tables remaining, if Ian, Chewy, or Catta won, they'd be the youngest main event winners in history. It was amazing to watch this person that I was friends with make it to day 8, sitting on Ivy's left, and competing against so many other big-name guys.
Ian Tavelli, the youngest player left in the field, 21 years old, with pocket nines.
Ian got into a ridiculous hand with pocket nines opening from early position and immediately getting 3-bet with only 17 players left. Everyone wanted to make it to the final table, so they were all avoiding questionable situations. One player folded ace-king suited. Joe Catta was then in the blender with the dreaded jiggities. It's not a fun hand to wake up to after seeing a raise and a re-raise from the first 2 players to act, but he somehow gets away from disaster. Ian called the 3-bet to close the action, but he was in bad shape with the flop coming 6 high. They got it in with my friend being in huge trouble. Pocket kings held to eliminate Ian. Still, he got a massive payout of $500,000 for a 21-year-old Arizona State student. That's pretty cool. It was a big deal in my hometown. The local paper wrote up a big article highlighting Ian's story. After watching his success, I then became more inspired to take poker seriously. The next year it was me who made the local paper for winning a $100 satellite into the 2010 main event. If I hadn't seen Ian do well in the main, perhaps I would have never taken a shot at the $100 satellite, which was the biggest buy-in I'd played at the time. The next tournament I played was the $10,000 main event, and I crushed it on day 1, finishing with one of the largest stacks in the field. Unfortunately, I got boat over boated on day 2 to get knocked out. I was devastated that I wasn't able to capitalize on such a major opportunity at the time, and that I wasn't able to turn my $10,000 ticket into life-changing money. Today, I have another chance to do what I wasn't able to do as a 22-year-old. We're headed into day 4 of the WPT World Championship with $37,600 already locked up. I can tell it's going to be a good day just on the drive because we hit every single green light from the time we get off the freeway all the way to the time that we arrive at the win. We've already outlasted over 3,700 entrants. If we can outlast just 84 more, we'll secure a minimum of a 6-figure payout. If we can make the final table a 6, we'll get our first 7-figure score, while first place is well over $5.5 million. As I enter the room, it's a lot quieter than in previous days with way fewer people around. The lack of sound is replaced by more tension, stress, and pressure as the pay jumps are becoming larger and larger. Any single mistake could abruptly end hopes that everyone who's still remaining surely has of hoisting the trophy at the end and winning millions. We find our bag that contains more air and fewer chips than I'd like. We only have 12 big blinds, but I'm happy to have made it this far. We fought hard and battled back from 10 to 12 big blinds at multiple points throughout this tournament already. There's no reason that we can't do it again today. Me and 2 other guys who I've rooted for and respected for years are all in the zone as we're among the first few to arrive at the table.
Joe,
It's going.
see your stack here.
It's very similar to yours, doesn't it?
Yeah, let's go. Let's run it up.
Let's go. Let's get it.
Chewy,
Let's get
good
these
to see
big
you, man.
stacks. You don't know, but it's a level of short stacks.
Yeah, exactly. Joe and I are both going to need to get lucky in order to spin up our short stacks. Before my dad passed away, he made a lot of jewelry from reclaimed copper, mostly for family friends whose homes burned down in the 2017 fires that ran through Northern California. He made this necklace and gave it to me that I occasionally bring to important tournaments for good luck. I'm hoping it'll help me out today. Minimally, I'd like to make some pay jumps. There's one that's not far away to 41,900 that everyone's aware of, having the 7th fewest chips coming into the day. If I can survive long enough for 12 people to bust out to earn at least an extra 4,300, that's a pretty big win. I hadn't used a time extension the entire tournament, but that changes as I'm beginning to use them strategically now in order to ensure that I don't make a mistake, and also so that I give other players opportunities to get knocked out before me. We haven't made the first pay jump, but we can't wait any longer as we pick up King Jack offsuit and hijack with 8.5 big blinds. I jam for 515,000. Chewy's in the small blind with a big stack. He calls, which I didn't want to see. Just winning the blinds would have been huge. The big blind is in the tank, considering whether or not he should also call or possibly re-raise. Each second feels like an eternity. We could be in terrible shape, but either way, our tournament life is on the line. It's just a matter of whether we're going to be heads up or if this is going to be a 3-way all-in. The big blind finally folds. We get some bad news.
King Queen, that's like the worst thing I could have heard. Fuck.
We're all in and completely dominated. It's going to be tough for us to win this one with only one live card.
Jack one time.
The flop comes King 4-4. We don't hit the jack, but we at least have a lot of outs that can give us the win or a chop. Plus, we have a main event champion in our corner rooting for us to stay alive.
There's ace. Ace or jack. 4. Ace, jack, or 4.
We're down to one final card. We need to drill a miracle, otherwise our tournament runs over. If we only had a club in our hand, I'd feel a lot better about the situation because we'd have 9 additional outs. Instead, I'm doing my best to will an ace, jack, or 4 so that we can stay in the tournament. We disappointingly don't hit any of those cards.
Wow.
I
I did not think a king was going to be coming.
I did.
We get the last king in the deck to chop in the most unexpected way. Though we end up only increasing our stack by 1 big blind, it feels like a double up as we continue to hang on by a thread. Perhaps there's something to this level of the short stacks mantra that Kata keeps on repeating. Chewy takes the tough chop in stride.
You don't mind Brad sticking around.
I appreciate it.
We're playing for lots of money at a fun table with 2 of the best ambassadors in poker. I'd like to stay here as long as possible. We don't have the luxury of being able to stay patient though. A few hands later, we pick up 8-6 offsuit in the big blind. The cutoff is a viewer named Adam. He min raises to 120,000. We've got 515,000 total. I call for 60,000 more. We're heads up out of position in a pot that we've got to win, otherwise we'll have less than 7 big blinds and we'll be in the small blind the next hand. The flop comes 10-8-4 rainbow. We've got middle pair. I'm elated to minimally have some piece of the board, but we don't know if we're even in the lead. I check. The opponent down bets is 60,000. We still haven't made the first pay jump of the day. We're only a few knockouts away, but we can't afford to wait for a situation much better than this. I check raise shove for 395,000 total. The first 2 to 3 seconds are the toughest to get through. We at least fade the snap call, which certainly would have come by now if the opponent had a pair that beat us. It becomes more and more evident that we're in the lead. As much as I'd like a full double up, I'm not sure my heart can take another all-in, knowing the opponent will probably have 6 outs that we'll have to avoid on the turn and river. I'd be totally fine winning this one immediately without having to sweat. Looks like we're going to have to sweat at least a little no matter what, as the cutoff has taken a very long time to consider whether or not to call and possibly make this our last hand of the tournament, or fold to guarantee that we'll last a little longer. Part of me likes the fact that the opponent has taken a long time because we're killing time inching closer and closer to the pay jump. The different media outlets have all circled around like vultures, waiting for me to die. The stress of the situation couldn't be much higher than it is right now. The cutoff tosses in another time bank to prolong the anticipation. He buys himself 30 seconds, then tosses in one more time bank. He runs this shot clock almost all the way down before we hear his decision.
Good fault. I mean, there's no way you had that beat, right?
Damn. We took that one.
You didn't have that beat, right?
If I have a pair, I call.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not a...
No top 2 pair.
I'm glad Kata didn't somehow find his way into seeing a flop, otherwise we probably wouldn't be in the tournament anymore. Instead, we increase our stack by a significant amount while reaching our first big objective of the day. We make the initial pay jump of day 4 to have 41,900 locked up. It's a big accomplishment given the circumstances coming into the day. The next pay jump occurs when we get down to 104 players. We won't be making it that far unless we get some more help because we still only have a few big blinds and we're going to be putting them to use. We're dealt ace-king offsuit. It folds a Joe Cata in the small blind. He barely has us covered as he open rips it for 695,000 effective. We don't have a decision. I snap call. Joe reveals that he has queen 9 suited. It's unlucky for him that we wake up with a hand that's as strong as it is. Joe isn't losing hope though.
I'm good at these.
I know. That's what I'm worried about.
Those worries keep deepening, so we can. Oh, that's gonna be tough to win.
We get a king right in the window to all but slam the door on Cata's chances of winning. The turn is the jack of clubs, opening that door right back up and giving the small blind 4 brand new cards that could knock us out.
Oh, we got outs.
No.
Always outs, always a swap. 10. Nice guy. You got me
Thanks,
covered?
man. No.
It's close.
I think you had like 9.
So chicken on chicken.
It's always scary when you're at risk in a 60-40 all-in against one of the best to ever flip, but we make top 2 pair to not only stay alive, but get a huge double up through the 4-time gold bracelet winner.
I think to myself when I said it was a level of short stack, and you're shorter than me, so
I can't quite describe the feeling that I've got now that we're at least somewhat out of the danger zone. We've reached objective number 2 on the day, which is to accumulate enough chips to actually have some playability. We've got over 1.4 million in front of us. We haven't had quite this much in our stack since early on in day 3. It's well over 20 big blinds at the moment, and we're an hour into the level with just 114 players remaining. I wish that we didn't have to go through Joe to get to where we're at because he's a great guy to have around. He ends up busting in 108th place, just shy of the next pay jump. Joe isn't too fazed by being knocked out though. Hopefully we'll see him in another deep run at some point in the future. The first level of the day comes to an end. Our table gets selected to be put on the main stage. This will be my 3rd day in a row playing on the featured table. It's definitely not my preference because it just adds to the stress and intensity that's inherent when playing for 5, 6, and 7-figure payouts. I'm going to do my best though. With blinds increasing to 40,000, 80,000, we've got less than 15 big blinds, while a few of the biggest stacks remaining are at our table, with one player having already crossed the 10 million mark. We're on a $5,200 pay jump bubble with 105 players left when the hijack raises to 160,000. A fairly late position raised from one of the larger stacks doesn't necessarily indicate tons of strength, which is why we're in so much trouble as we're dealt a hand that's good, but absolutely dominated in this instance. I could make an argument for folding in order to avoid this spot that's a little murky with our stack depth, in hopes to make it to that $47,000 payout that we're one knockout away from. I could maybe make an argument for calling since it would still give us a good chance to make the pay jump, and we at least see a flop likely in position without risking our whole stack immediately. I can also make an argument for jamming in order to win 4.5 big blinds without seeing a flop and increasing our stack by almost 1/3. We're likely going to have to get it all in soon anyway if we really want a shot at making the top 30 or so in this event. I got 35th last year for 99,600. I'd like to improve upon that. I use the time bank to consider our options more carefully and allow more time for someone to bust out before us. There's a lot riding on this decision. I definitely don't want to rush it and accidentally go with a choice that I'll regret.
Chat, there is a world in which Brad rips this in here.
Yeah, with the hijack raise and the cutoff, he likely has a very good hand to jam here with the ace-10. Unlucky for him, though, if he decides to go with it. Let's get some very bad news.
Big spot for Owen, just taking his time as he knows we are on a pay jump. 104th will receive an extra 5,200 on top of what they're already guaranteed. So just using a few time banks before taking the rejam spot makes a ton of sense. It's a pretty good hourly. You know, you waste the 60, 90 seconds, ladder up an extra 5K.
What a life.
It is a pretty sweet life, but it'd be a lot sweeter if the opponent didn't have a monster and if we had a slightly easier decision. At this point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to 3-bet jam. The hijack can have so many weak holdings that he won't want to call a 3-bet shove with. I use another time bank. If we can make an extra 5,000 by waiting 2 minutes, it's certainly worth it. It's $2,500 a minute. The way I'm doing this is actually not optimal though. If you ever find yourself in this spot where you're on the pay jump bubble, what you want to do is maybe use a time bank to consider your options. Then once you know that you're going to jam, you just 3-bet almost all your chips, but not quite all of them. Pretty often, the opponent will be folding anyway, so you get to hold on to your remaining time banks. But if he does jam, you can use your time banks at that point, plus you'll get an extra 30 seconds. I use my third to last time bank. It doesn't matter a whole lot in this particular scenario because we can see that the opponent won't be folding to a shove. I also rarely use time banks normally, so I'm not too concerned about running out of them, but I definitely would use an extra 5,000. I re-raise almost all my chips, but I leave myself with 10,000 and 2 time banks. The opponent announces that he's all in. I soak up possibly my last few moments on air while I keep an eye on the shot clock. I use my second to last time bank. I hate having to do this type of thing, but it's so important to ladder up and potentially get an extra half of a buy-in and a 10k. This could easily be my very last hand of the event. It's tense and nerve-wracking. I'm still in good enough spirits to crack a joke though.
I have a lot of respect in.
I mean, you could make the best fold in history if you want.
Fuck.
Don't tempt him with a good time.
Yeah.
Good for me then.
Huh?
I mean, there's no way I'm not.
I mean, I'm just.
I either have like 5%, 30%.
I'm not doing.
This is a smile of someone who knows they're in good shape. I can't blame the guy. The good news is that we're not up against aces like the opponent was implying. We're at closer to 30% equity, we'll win outright 24% of the time, and we'll chop 5% of the time. We're not completely dead. I use up every ounce of clock I can, then I get it in for the remaining 10,000. I'm somewhat relieved to see that we've at least got a live card. Still, it's not ideal. We're going to need a lot of help, otherwise our run is over. The flop comes 8-5-4 with 2 diamonds, we don't improve, and the opponent has a backdoor flush draw. I'm shaking my head. After 2 bullets and several days of playing, surviving with a short stack in tough situations, it's looking bleak. It's hard to be too upset with what's still a big payout, but we're getting closer and closer to 105th place with no pay jump being made. On the other hand, Chris is feeling pretty good about life with an 83% chance of winning outright. Even if we somehow manage to drill a 10, he'll still have plenty of chips. The turn is the 9 of spades. It looked a lot like a 10 when it came out of the deck, but that was by design to make this moment even more agonizing. There will be no opportunities for a chop. We need 1 of 3 remaining 10s, otherwise we're out. It's been a fun tournament. And it's not over.
Oh,
Damn.
my god, holy shit.
Wow.
Wow.
okay. 10 ball corner pocket.
That's fine.
Wow.
I was expecting to be on my way to the payout line already. We get bailed out in about as big of a way as possible. Rather than bust, we win the biggest pot that we've played the whole tournament to be at a brand new high point. We came into today with just over 700,000, and now we've got over 2.5 million and 32 big blinds with 105 left. I'm no longer thinking about the pay jump to 47,000. We probably have a top 50 stack where the payouts are 6 figures or more. It's hard not to think about maybe my dad helping me out with that one. It's such a big emotional swing from being deflated to being ecstatic. With every major tournament run, you have to get lucky at some point along the way. I didn't run particularly well the other 3 days, but it appears I've saved all my run good for day 4 when it matters the most. I actually prefer not to have any big decisions after a potentially life-altering river card comes out, so I can have time to settle down and process the situation, but we don't get the chance. The very next hand, we're dealt King-Jack suited in the hijack. We're playing it. I raised to 160,000. Chewy's in the small blind with something that's slightly better. He calls. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Queen 6 Deuce Rainbow. We've got 1 over and some backdoor draws. Chewy checks. We might be able to steal this one with a small bet. There are plenty of good turn cards that'll give us equity if we're behind. I bet 125,000. The small blind has 1 over and a backdoor flush draw as well. He'd like to see a turn. He calls, which is a bit worrisome on a dry board. The turn is the 4 of spades. The opponent checks. I literally just got these chips and I'm not interested in giving them away immediately if the opponent has a strong hand. I check back. The river is the deuce of clubs. The small blind checks once more. I give up and check again, figuring we probably don't have the winner. That assessment's correct. Chewy wins the pot worth $750,000 without pairing either of his cards. I don't mind it too much. I still prefer to not really play any additional hands, maybe for about 80 more knockouts or so. Not much happens until we break the top 100. You can see how many players remain in the upper left hand corner. We made the pay jump to be guaranteed 47,000, and we're close to the next pay jump up to 53,500 once we get down to 88 players. We pick up ace-8 suited under the gun. I raise to 160,000. Every hand is incredibly important at this stage of the tournament, and when we open from early position, we're susceptible to getting resistance. Thankfully, everyone has garbage and easy decisions to fold. We get it through to stay above 2 million in chips. Remember, every time we go through the blinds, we lose 200,000 in chips, so we need to try to win more than that to keep the pace before the blinds go up again. A bit later, Chris wakes up with another strong ace. He's in the cutoff and raises to 160,000. It's nice for Chris that he's getting dealt hands towards the top of his range in late position, while other people are regularly getting dealt hands that are good 3-bet candidates right behind him. In this case, the button re-raises to 460,000. It's an interesting situation that's made even more interesting when we look down at pocket jiggities in the small blind with 26 big blinds. Even if we had 40 big blinds, we'd be 4-bet jamming in this spot. We've got the 4th best hand in poker. The cutoff will have a wide range, opening the door for the button to 3-bet light as we see he's done. We have a spot set up perfectly for us to rip it. It's just always scary putting chips at risk and potentially getting knocked out of the tournament. We have to play each situation to the best of our ability and be okay with the outcome though. I 4-bet shove, everything's good, until we see the graphic pop up for the big blind who somehow has kings. After seeing a raise, 3-bet, and cold 4-bet jam, the big blind doesn't immediately fold like he should be doing with almost every hand that isn't flipping or beating us. Without seeing the cards, I already know that we're in trouble.
Such a slam dunk shove for Brad there to pick up all those extra chips and just waking up with a very strong hand, and then unfortunately big blind just waking up with it here.
About 3 to start. Could be a little off.
Brad with the jiggities. Running in to the Django's as Ankit does take the reshove spot. And I think Brad knows, given the action in front of him, as open 3-bet. Brad with the 4-bet jam.
Very interesting.
Ankit
I had a snap.
with the 5-bet.
This is Brad's hand though, the jiggities. It gives him a little extra equity.
It's not looking good as we're at risk against one of the top stacks and we're dominated. A jack was folded, so we've got 1 out remaining. The graphic in the top left says there are 90 players in the field, but it's lagging a bit. There are actually 89 left, so we're on another pay jump bubble with little hope to stay alive. The flop comes Queen 10-3 with 2 hearts. It's not what we wanted to see, but we've got some backdoor draws. These all-in runouts are slower on the feature table than they are on the outer tables. To make sure that the cameras and graphics are correct, it usually makes things more painful when I'm at risk and behind, wishing there wasn't going to be additional video of me being eliminated, but in this exact moment, dragging things out is somewhat beneficial.
No rigging this time.
Oh, there we go. Just heard he made a pay jump.
There are a number of turns that could help us out, including some red ones. The dealer puts out a black 10 instead. We had some magical moments throughout the event. It was tough to make it this far, battling with so many of the top players. I wanted to improve upon my 35th place finish that I got last year in this tournament. I thought that I had a good chance after getting some key double ups early on in the day, but it's all coming down to one last card. I stand up to prepare for a quick exit. As I do so, I take the mic pack out of my pocket, and you can see that the necklace that my dad made for me falls out of my pocket without me realizing it. My good luck charm is gone when I need it the most.
Doesn't find it, chat. Not to be this time.
Hey, good game, Brad.
Handshakes all around. Brad Owen with back-to-back deep runs in the World Championship. A top 100 place finish.
Good game, bro.
Ultimately, coming up short. 4-bet jamming the jacks. Just running into top of range.
Jam.
Out of the big. Going home with $53,500 for his efforts.
Started with 3.
Yeah, it's painful, but amazing run.
Getting eliminated from a tournament is never fun. This run in particular is especially bittersweet, but with every event like this one, we get stronger and gain experience in high-pressure situations, playing for a lot of money. We outlasted 3,747 players. I was in for 2 bullets, so the profit is over 30,000 for just a few days of work. It's been an amazing month already, with this payout and a 3rd place finish for over 100,000 in a different 10K event earlier on. I've gotten 2 of my top 5 biggest tournament cashes in only a few weeks. The problem is that I'm still hungry for more. I get the chips from my WPT World Championship run. You won't see me cash them out though. There's one last big event on the schedule, and I'm about to risk everything I just won to play it. Just fire in the 50K. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed my WPT World Championship run. Next episode, I play a $50,000 buy-in. It's 5 times bigger than any buy-in that I've ever played, and I promise you, you're not gonna wanna miss that one. Also, for those of you wondering, I did get that necklace back from my dad. I went back and I got it, so luckily that's with me. Right now is the absolute best time to sign up to WPT Global using that bonus code BRAD. There's deposit match bonuses, and if you're a tournament player for the month of March, WPT Global is not taking a rake. So that is a awesome promotion. I have more information in the description box below, but be sure to check that out if you're in a country where you can play global. Got a couple of meetup games and other events going on. April 18th, I'm doing one with Vince Van Patten for the WPT out in Hollywood, Florida at the Hard Rock for that tournament series going on. I have more information in the description box for that. And then me, Andrew, and Mariano are doing one April 23rd at the Lodge in Austin, Texas to kick off our Lodge Championship Series. It is the best time to go out to the Lodge. If you've ever wanted to check it out, definitely do it because we just have tournament buy-ins of all different amounts and tons of big name players will be there, so it's a pretty exciting event. All right, guys, hope to see you around. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.